Hello, everybody. It's Vinay. Uh, so today we have a difficult subject, maybe not in like philosophically or mathematically or nerdy-ish difficult, but difficult subject. We're going to see the original act of sexual aggression in the universe. So we're going to see how Brahma reacts. We're going to cover the famous story of Brahma and his daughter Vak. So why don't we get into this and see what's in the text? Now, also, let me say, this particular telling of the story that's in the Bhagavatam is slightly different than the two other tellings of the stories in other Puranas in the way that it's a bit less harsh on Brahma and that he didn't require quite as much correction as in the other stories. So just bear that in mind. I think I'll bring out the details of that as we go. Let's see. Where did it go? All right. See, I didn't open it up yet. Hey, Samantha, the white hearts came through without getting censored. Very cool. Hey, Del, hello. Melissa, Kitty, Abhishek, everybody. All right, here we are. So this is what Brahma's done so far. He had his darshan with Vishnu and he realized what the universe should be like and what he needed to do. So then he started to do it. He started by partitioning the center of the lotus into three zones in which different life forms could exist. Then Maitreya, describing this, got on a tangent talking about time and the units of time. Then when he gets back onto the topic, he just continues and he says the first thing Brahma does is he works with ignorance to make sure that it's strong enough to bind consciousness into matter. And that gets a bit out of hand because ignorance leads to bad things. It leads to anger and violence. So he wanted to counterbalance that. So after purifying himself from that, he wanted to counterbalance that with wisdom, just as Jupiter is a counterbalance for Mars. And he therefore created the four sanas, the four original children of Brahma. These guys are often called four Kumars also because they never go through puberty, because they decided that they didn't want to be involved in material growth. So they didn't want to have children. They didn't want to have families and stuff like that. So the simplest way to do that is to never hit puberty. And that's what they did. So they're always young kids. So often you can hear them called the four sanas. In English, you usually hear them called the four Kumars, which means the four kids. All right, then he got angry about them not cooperating with him, but didn't want to harbor that anger, so he put it outside of himself, and then it became, coming outside of himself, it was Rudra, the god of destruction. Then he had Rudra divide into 11 male and female forms and occupy 11 places in the universe to give power to those places. And then he told those 11 male and female forms to make babies, but he didn't realize that they would make destructive babies since they're destructive. And that's what they did. And then the destructive babies started destroying everything. And then Brahma had to ask Shiva to calm down. Then Brahma had to ask Shiva, how am I supposed to calm down? I'm composed of anger. How am I supposed to calm down? Then Brahma told him, you do yoga just like I did. And this is how you do it. You calm your breath and you concentrate on Vishnu within your being. And then Shiva tried it and it worked. And he calmed down. And then Brahma could continue with creation. He could calm all of his children down. All right. Question from Abhishek. Some people say darkness is nothing but an absence of light. Similarly, ignorance is nothing but an absence of... This is interesting. So this isn't avidya. Avidya is just an absence of vidya. That use of the term that can be translated as ignorance is what they say. It's abhav, or a non-existence of vidya. But this thing that Brahma is fashioning is something called darkness. Tamas, it's a thing. It's a thing which covers. It's like a thing which obscures. So its main function is to obscure the true identity, and then by its derivatives, it can give a false identity and then give false desires. And then give emotions based on those false desires, and then therefore create sadness and anger and violence. Okay? Now, Brahma at this point hasn't really done great. I mean, he has. He's given rise to Rudra's Shiva's primary avatar, and he's given rise to the 4 Kumars, and he's created this weird ignorant stuff, but he hasn't, in terms of making the universe self-sufficient and having life forms produce other life forms, he hasn't really succeeded much, because he got Rudra to do it, and they can only make monsters. So what he turns is, this part is where we pick up in the text. He's going to say, look, I need to specifically create beings that are specifically designed to procreate and to create things. And remember, he's got to make some fancy procreators, because they're going to procreate multiple species. So it says here, he turned his attention to creating progenitors, beings who could help him bring fruition to his designs for all the life forms. So this is when he created 10 new beings. And these are called the rishis. These are the dasha rishis. Later they get called sapta rishis because of the function, because 3 of them maybe don't function together with the other 7. Okay, so this is, if you want to frame the sapta rishis in the universal creation, they're the 3rd batch. First created beings are the 4 Kumars, the 4 kids. And after that, there's Rudra and Rudrani and their 11 expansions, and then all their children. And then after that, you get the rishis. Rishis means, literally, rishi means the best, the first beings. And those are the Prajapatis. So who are they? They're going to be named here, and they're going to be, it's going to be, Maitreya is going to say what part of himself he created the being from. He's going to use himself to create these other beings. I'm not sure if he did that with Kumars. We could assume that maybe he did. He definitely did that with Rudra. Rudra was his anger. Now, to create these next 10 beings, he's going to use different parts of himself. So he creates a being called Marichi first. Marichi is like Jeshta, the Indra, the foremost of the sages, of the rishis. And he created Marichi from his own mind. Then he created Atri from his eyes. Then he created Angira from his mouth, Daksha from his thumb. Why thumb? Daksha means dexterous. The word dexterous in English comes from Daksha. And the thumb is what gives us dexterity. Daksha from his thumb, and I skipped some, sorry. Marichi from the mind, Atri from the eye, Angiras from the mouth, Pulastya from the ear, Pulaha from his navel, Kratu maybe isn't so famous. I think Kratu is the 7th, one of the 7, from his hand, not just the thumb, but from the whole hand, Brigu from his skin, Vashishta from his breath, Daksha from his thumb, and Narada. Narada was the 10th, the youngest. Narada sprang from Brahma's aspiration for true companionship. So he created Narada from his longing for relationships or love. That's very interesting. So each one of these beings has their particular characteristics and as an individual due to the fact of which part of Brahma they were created from. Like Daksha is extremely dexterous and expert at things because he's made from the thumb. Narada is probably the most famous of all these 10. Narada is Narada because he was created from Brahma's you could say love, or specifically it said his aspiration for true companionship. So now Maitreya is going to speak a bit about Narada for like one paragraph. Narada wasn't interested in generating population. That got Brahma really mad before, right? So Narada is a lot like the four Kumars. He's not interested, the four kids. He's not interested in participating in material development. But it didn't get Brahma angry at all. You could theorize maybe it's because he's got 9 people already that were successful and wanting to do that. But you could also theorize that the reason is different. For Narada wants the 4 Kumars just wanted to have nothing to do with the creation at all. They just wanted to focus on Vishnu. Narada, you're going to see, he does want to have something to do with the creation. He just doesn't want to get involved in developing it externally. So he's not interested in generating population. Instead, he wanted to provide the population with ways to establish their relationship with the Supreme Personality. Look what he's created from. He's created from Brahma's aspiration for true companionship. So what is he going to want to do? He's going to want to give people the best kind of relationship. So the best kind of relationship with the best person is what Narada is all about. That's why Narada is the Bhakti sage. So he says there's going to be plenty of people. There's going to be enough people. There's going to be enough species. He's got 9 brothers. They're going to take care of all this stuff. I don't need to deal with that even. But all these people are going to be unhappy. That's what we should be addressing here. Let me try to give them a way to understand love and understand relationship and establish a relationship with the Supreme Person. Indeed, this is the real reason that Brahma named him Narada. Anybody want to break down the etymology for Narada? You could guess it. What this has to do with Narada? Maitreya explains it. He wants to give people a relationship with the Supreme Person. That's why he's called Narada. Da means to give. When it's the suffix, it means to give. And Narada means he's the Narayan giver. He gives Narayan. So how Brahma reacts with Narada, he says, okay, great. You do that. So he excuses him from procreation and he says, I'll just make another 10th one. I do need 10 guys. So he made another 10th one. And he made this 10th. So Narada is not really classed with these other guys because he doesn't act at all in the same way with Marichi and Pulastya and Daksha and all those guys. He's in his own class, Narada Muni. So he was replaced. His position in that class was replaced by an 11th Prajapati, who's named Kardama. Good, Shanti. His name is Kardama. You have to forgive the lag. There's like a 10-second lag in between when I talk and when you hear it. Kardama is famous because Kardama is going to marry Devahuti. Maitreya says he's the great husband of Devahuti. Devahuti is famous because she's the mother of Kapila. Kapila is famous because he's an incarnation of Vishnu, a very, very important incarnation of Vishnu. So Kardama Brahma created him from his own reflection. So apparently Kardama is like kind of a whole Brahma, a reflection of a whole Brahma. Muni just means sage. Anybody can be called a Muni. Anybody who's a scholar can be called a Muni. It's not actually part of his name, it's just a title. Oh. Okay, now he's pretty excited. He finally generated 10 beings that are interested in doing what he actually needs to get done, which is enabling his designs for all these life forms to actually come into being. So he gets excited, and then he realizes that he needs to give motivations. He needs to create the basic motivations So he needs to create emotional things too. Don't forget that emotions are also objects that we experience. So Brahma needs to create various emotional states that are like motivational states that will incline living entities to interact with this world. So the first one that he creates is morality. Okay. Morality, Maitreya says, it pleases even Narayan when people are moral, because then they cooperate and it makes the world a nice place. And he says, Maitreya says he created morality from his chest, from the heart area. Immorality, the opposite of it, which causes the world to fear death, sprang from his back. So from here comes morality, from there comes immorality. And immorality causes problems and pain and suffering. Desire comes from his mind, and anger comes from his eyebrows. Greed comes from his lower lip. Linguistic mastery, that's interesting. That's maybe why we bite our lip. When you're trying to show that you're trying to control a desire, you go like that. Greed from his lower lip, linguistic mastery from his mouth, bodies of water from his penis, and elimination of accumulated waste springs from his anus. So there's, why bodies of water? It's not, doesn't seem to be a motivation. I would probably have to investigate that more. And elimination of accumulated waste, that's one motivation, is to clean the house, to get rid of junk, right? Spring cleaning. I wonder what this bodies of water thing is. It might be rasam, and it might be the desire to enjoy that comes from the penis. All right, so those are how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 motivations. Linguistic mastery as a motivation also means the desire to understand things. Maria has a off-topic but specific question. Where can you find the passage that says that you can be human if past life you were a monkey or a lion? I think it's Padma Purana, but it goes like this: you could be a, first of all, you could become a human. It's up to Yama to decide if you become a human or not. You could become a human from being one of the higher human species as well, but the way that you come up into a human birth from the animal species in the typical manner is threefold. You can, atypical cases can skip things. The typical manner is humans who are predominated by tamaguna were previously monkeys, which are basically humans in tamaguna. Humans that are predominantly rajaguna were previously those big cats, felines like tigers. I think lion is a specific word, singha. And then humans that are predominantly sattvaguna were previously cows. That's the statement there. Yes, Miss Vinay, and also water. I would need to look this up, but I'm not really too much in the mood to look it up right now because I want to get to this next story. But it's water also has to do with rasa. Rasa has to do with flavor and pleasure, and that would be a serious missing. I guess greed is talking about desire. Oh, he has already got desire and greed, but maybe pleasure is the third one. Maybe relaxation. Relaxation could be another one. I don't know why it would be associated with that particular body part. Let's look it up one day. Let's figure it out one day. Let's get on to this next story, which is kind of like the main focus for today. This is the story of Vak, who's the first female who comes into this tale. So it may be that she's actually the first. Not really. Rudrani is the first female. Is the second female that comes into the tale. When linguistic mastery appeared from Brahma's mouth, it assumed a female form assumed a female form. This is because females have better linguistic mastery than men. And if you need a reference for that, it's in the Bhagavad Gita. So the goddess of linguistic mastery, the linguistic mastery, when it exhibits its personality, it'll be feminine. And if it's a female that comes from Brahma, then it's going to be Brahma's daughter, right? And she's named Vak. Vak literally means speech. There's other names for her, of course, but Vak is the one that she gets here in the beginning. Now, Brahma, the beauty of Vak captivates the mind of Brahma. How this works is very simple. Brahma means knowledge, and Vak means speech. So the speech captivates the mind of knowledge because knowledge cannot be transmitted or expressed or cannot flourish or grow without speech. Just like you can't make babies without women. If without men, as long as if you somehow had semen somewhere, you could make babies. But similar to the actually, you can't same thing here. Like if you don't have either knowledge or speech, then you can't propagate wisdom. So same way, if you don't have men and women, that's why they're attracted to each other. You can't make babies. So Brahma naturally is going to be extremely attached to or feel a need for it. Feel like, oh, that I need that. That's the thing that I'm missing. That's going to make me whole. Towards Vak, he would naturally feel that way towards Vak or speech because his inherent being is wisdom. You get it? Now, I have no idea how you came up with that, Berto. Morality is just a motivation for action. I don't know why you like to. I don't see how you see that as the Bhagavatam in any way saying that. So when linguistic mastery appears from Brahma's mouth, it assumed a female form as his daughter's speech. Her beauty captivated his mind. He greatly desired her, despite the fact that she had no desire for him. For some reason, she doesn't feel attracted to him. And in the other tellings of the story has been told 2 or 3 times in different Puranas. She explains why. She says, well, love requires a fitness between the lover and the beloved. They have to be appropriate for each other. And I don't feel that you're appropriate for me, or nor that I am appropriate for you, because when I look at you, I see the person that created me. So what you're fit for is a role like my father. But and if you're my father, you're not going to work in the role of as my lover. That doesn't work. There's no fitness in that. There's no propriety in that. So she explained that to him in some other tellings. But the whole part of this story is I really want to get into the story, so I might just save all these questions for later. So the whole issue here, people completely miss the point with this story. They completely miss the point. This story is the very important story to show the basic thing. Like there's basic things like killing is bad, stealing is bad, those kind of really basic things. This is the one that shows that rape is bad. Okay? And should be punished and should be corrected. And Indians totally, people who are familiar with the story, whether Indian or not, totally miss the point. And they think it's some kind of story about how incest is bad. But the fact, what Maitreya says here is he greatly desired her despite the fact that she had no desire for him. That's what's wrong. Now, that's going to be explained more explicitly when Maitreya, when Marichi talks to Brahma. So let's go ahead forward. Her brothers are the sages, Narada, Kashyapa, no, was it Kashyapa? Kardama, Pulastya, Pulaha, Marichi, those guys that were just created, including Shiva, 4 Kumars. Some tellings of the stories have Shiva as the guy, as the primary guy. This telling is going to have Marichi. And here it just says her brothers, which could include either one. Her brothers noticed an immortal inclination arising in their father's heart. So sage Marichi spoke to Brahma very respectfully and restored Brahma's intellect. Here's where the telling is a little different than other tellings. In other tellings, Brahma actually chased her for a long time, and she became a deer to flee from him. Mrigashira, he became a deer to chase her. I tell this story in the Nakshatra videos for Mrigashira, Rohini, or all of them, and Ardra. They're all involved in the story. And then Shiva had to come out and stop him, not with words of wisdom, but with a smack. Smack so strong that lopped off one of Brahma's heads. But this is a softer telling of the tale here, where Brahma is more. Also, don't forget that there are actually many Brahmas. So the story may happen differently in different universes. Slightly differently. So in this telling, Brahma's more quick to correct himself. So just the eldest of the brothers, which in some stories is considered Shiva, but here is considered Marichi. He speaks on behalf of all the brothers. And he speaks to Brahma and he says, "Powerful Lord, never before have you been pushed by uncontrolled sexual desire towards your own daughter." Okay, so maybe it is about incest and not rape. Maybe the real problem is incest, but rape is okay. This is what you're actually saying if you're promoting the idea that this story is actually about incest. Never again should you or anyone else behave in this way. This is an important statement. Never again should you or anyone else behave in the way that you're behaving right now. With what? With uncontrolled sexual desire. Certainly. Now Brahma's like, what? Give me a break, right? That's the way anybody would react. So Marichi says, well, okay, I understand. You are certainly in a unique position. You're in a unique position because unlike everybody else, you're everybody's father. So therefore, there's not going to be a single woman in the world who is not your daughter or a granddaughter or a great-great-granddaughter or something. Right? So still, you are the world's guru, so your behavior sets the example that all others will embrace and consider popular. So he says, look, even though it's not the same kind of daughter for you as it will be for everybody else. This woman, Vak, is not your daughter in the same way that our daughters are our daughters. It's completely different. You're the first God in the universe. Your relationship with all these people is going to be in the same way, and it's not even created in the same way. She was created from your mouth. But still, because you're the first being and everybody looks up to you, if you do something, people will think it's okay. So you're stuck. And this is why Brahma doesn't do sexual reproduction on his own to create the universe. He does other creative forms of reproduction. Because he can't set the example of incest. So that is one issue in this story. But Maitreya says now, but more importantly, you must not push yourself sexually on an unconsenting partner. This is the truth. It's equal. This is the one thing that you're not exempt from. You're exempt. You are exempt from the issue of incest because everybody's your daughter. So if you're going to have sexual relationship with anybody, it's going to be with a daughter. So you can be exempt from that. But even though you shouldn't be because you're the guru. So people will look up for you, and whatever you do, they'll take as being okay for them to do. So I think you shouldn't do that, even though you could do that. It wouldn't literally be immoral. But this other part of what you're doing, which is she's not interested in you, and you keep forcing yourself on her. That's the part that really is immoral. You have to stop this, and never again should you do it. And you better make sure that nobody. You better make sure you don't do it, because then if you do it, then everybody else is going to think it's okay. Now Maitreya said, not Maitreya, Marichi says, gives Brahma some advice about how. This is very funny because Brahma is the one who always gives everybody advice. He just gave Shiva advice about how he can calm down and not be angry. But once you get, see, after he, this is interesting too, because this comes after he creates greed. And those motivations, he gets overwhelmed by these motivations. Once you get overwhelmed by motivations like greed, your knowledge gets quiet and goes and recedes into the background. So even though Brahma knows what Marichi is about to tell him, he still has to be reminded about it. So he's going to tell Brahma, you're polluted right now with greed and lust. How can you get free from that? Just like Shiva was polluted with anger and wanted to get free from it, and you told him how, that's how. So he said, we should offer our respects to the all-attractive, who is self-causing and whose beautiful luster reflects as the beauty of all attractive entities. So here's the thing. Listen, you got to listen to every sentence in the Bhagavatam carefully. That's why I'm trying to tell you guys to stop listening to your internal chatter so much and your internal narratives and listen more to what the Bhagavatam is saying, because every single sentence is so very important and has so much information in it. So this one is really important. The beauty of the all-attractive reflects as the beauty of all attractive entities. That's really important. Just tattoo that on your forehead, so you see it every time you look in the mirror. Tattoo it on your hand so you see it all the time. The beauty of, don't literally tattoo it on your forehead. It's kind of weird. You can if you want, in light ink. The beauty of the all-attractive reflects as the beauty of all attractive entities. So what he's saying is, if you're attracted to something, just remember that you're attracted to a reflection of the all of Bhagavan. So why are you getting so bent out of shape over chasing and possessing this reflection of Bhagavan? Why don't you get bent out of shape over establishing a relationship with Bhagavan? We should offer our respects to the all-attractive, who is self-causing and whose beautiful luster reflects as the beauty of all attractive entities. May he kindly protect the morality of our Father. Now, how does Brahma react? This is also, now Brahma actually sets the ideal. This would be wonderful if all men could react like this. Because being a man, women have no idea what it's like. You have no idea what it's like. You have, I don't know, like 100 times more testosterone than a woman has. There's some incredible, ridiculous amount of hormone in your body. And it's actually just unrealistic not to expect non-graceful or disgraceful sexual feelings, at least from time to time. It's just completely unrealistic. But the way that you react to those things is your morality. And the way that Brahma reacts to this situation is so ideal. He doesn't say, no, I'm justified. He doesn't make up any justifications. He doesn't make up any excuses. He just accepts his blame and corrects himself. So that's all you have to do. You don't reinvent laws and reinvent religions and try to punish women for making you feel this way. They don't make you feel this way. You feel this way. So this is how Brahma reacted. Hearing his son speak like this, the forefather regained his former clarity. So that doused his passions, and all of a sudden he realized, wow, look what I'm doing. Then how did he feel? He says he felt completely embarrassed. He's very embarrassed. You could imagine how embarrassed you would be if your oldest son had to stop you from like trying to force yourself sexually on somebody. He was completely embarrassed and completely full of shame. So he felt so guilty. And what did he do? And this is also going to break your head also. He wanted to commit suicide. This is how much he felt disgusted by his own actions, that he wanted to commit suicide, but he can't commit suicide because if he does, the whole universe dissolves. He's the entity that's the universe is centered on. He's the creator of the universe, so he can't do that. So he comes up with a way to sort of do it. So what he does is he gets rid of his body, which is basically what suicide is. So he gets rid of his body because the body, just like the other day, what I was talking about before, like if you get angry, if you get passionate or something, your body actually gets like chemically different. And then if you suddenly snap out of that mood, then all of a sudden all that chemical, whatever is in your body, feels gross. And so Brahma felt just like disgusted and disgusting and gross. And he just wanted to get rid of his body. And so he did. He got rid of his body. He separated his body from his mind and threw it away. And Maitreya says, space itself possessed the body and turned it into something. It turned Brahma's polluted body into terrifying darkness. It's scary. It turned it into terrifying darkness. Now, he needs a new body. Now, I'll give you details from some of the other tellings of the story that are in other Puranas, where the story is told in more detail. I think maybe Maitreya is somehow, maybe this Brahma that Maitreya is talking about is a more like morally upright Brahma, because after all, this Brahma that's in our universe, we're a bit lucky. Or whatever, for whatever reason, this story is kind of short on details. Other Puranas elaborate on more details. Vak, after she saw Brahma's repentance, she felt bad for him. And then she said, I'll be your wife, but we're not going to have sex. If that's okay with you, that's okay with me. And what I'll do for you is I will make you a new body. I will construct you a new body out of myself. And Brahma said, that's wonderful, let's do that. And so this is why Brahma is married to Vak, who's also called Saraswati. But they don't even live together, and they seldom really interact that much with each other. So all that we hear in this particular telling from the Bhagavatam is that he got a new body. After he cast off his old body, he got a new one. He needs a body. He needs tools to interact. So he got one, but this one was not composed of whatever the last one was composed of. This one was composed of knowledge. Since this is interesting in a couple of ways. It opens your mind to realize what kind of beings we're talking about here. Brahma has a body, yes, it has hands, it has eyes, it has everything, but it's not made out of water and fire and stuff like that. It's made out of words, language. So when you want to like point at some place where Brahma lives, it's pretty difficult to imagine a place there, like a planet in outer space that's made out of words. It's probably not really in our plane of existence that these beings exist. That's one interesting thing that opens your mind. The other interesting thing is just the fact that, okay, great, now Brahma, which means wisdom, has its body, which means words. And now it's complete. And so actually this is how Vak says, I'll give you my Shakti. You can procreate through me, but not as a typical wife. I will become your body, and through that body you can act and generate your offspring through the body. And the offspring of this marriage of Vak and Brahma is Veda. So the next thing that Maitreya is going to explain is what the Vedas are and what's in the Vedas, because Brahma is going to create it next. But I'm going to have to stop. Let me just finish this last paragraph and then see if I can quickly address any question, because I literally have like 2 minutes left. He created a new body out of knowledge. Language had previously Language had previously manifest when Brahma wondered, how can I recreate all worlds? And the word tapa and everything. But now in Vak, language becomes mastered. Vak is not just language, but linguistic mastery. Reviewing the knowledge he had received from Vishnu, the Veda manifests from Brahma's four-mouth in the forms of verbal language. Now that he's got mastered language, or Sanskrit, Sanskriti means mastery of language, or perfected language. Now that he's got perfected language, he has an appropriate way to share what he learned from Vishnu. So now he can create the Veda. And that's what we'll look at next week, or tomorrow. All right, let's see if I can answer one or two, or address one or two quick things. Somebody got their message blocked because it said the word shitty. Neil is confused about why ignorance is necessary, because if you're not ignorant, then you won't even participate in this world. No, you won't. Your participation in this world will not be compelling. So it won't be satisfying. You understand? Just like if you don't forget who you are, then a movie is not very good. Right. Usually it's Shiva who is the destroyer of this, and that's kind of important. Who destroys Brahmas. What Bardo wants to know why the sexual drive of men is so high. I don't really know. I think it's not a problem if the men also have. It's not a problem that the men's sexual drive is high. The problem is that men's morality is low. That's the problem. If the morality is high and the sexual drive is high, that's really great. It injects a lot of energy into the women, which they need, and they develop. So it's not a problem. The sexual drive of men is not the problem. The lack of morals is the problem. Yeah, Rudra is the one that got instructions from Shiva is a name for one of the Rudras, but Shiva also, I may not have said this explicitly, but after Shiva mastered the yoga, after Rudra mastered the yoga, Shiva, it's told elsewhere in the Bhagavatam, that's when he became known as Shiva. Rudra became known as Shiva. Although one of the Rudras also had the name Shiva. He said, this is why you're Shiva. Now you're really Shiva. Because Shiva means calm, peaceful, benefic. All right, guys. That was a good, interesting one. Next stream, you're going to start to get an amazing overview of the contents of all of the Vedas. So make sure you come tomorrow, because tomorrow's going to break down everything that's in the Vedas. Because now Brahma's going to, now that he has Vak, he's going to create the Veda, which is the actual child of Brahma. And then Vidura is going to ask Maitreya to explain in a bit of detail what's in the Veda. So we're going to get a nice big long section about what's in the Veda. Hey guys, see you soon. Gotta go. Nice peacock. That's how did you get that peacock? I gotta find that one. Bye bye.